All right, here we go. Class 3A. I'm excited to talk about this one. It's just pandemonium in this class, really. Um, a lot of really exciting football going to be played down the stretch in Class 3A. You look at some of the upsets that have been happening, and like I said in the last show, last week didn't do the show because a lot of us here at the Arkansas Sports Network were busy covering the 4A state volleyball tournament, myself included, making the trip over to Huntsville and being able to cover that really exciting tournament. I know there's some crossover between 3A and 4A between the different sports. A couple of teams maybe from 3A football that were competing in 4A volleyball, and there's a lot of differences in things like that. So gonna be an exciting time in this class, and I think it's nobody has the state title locked up in this class for sure. But a lot of really talented teams, a lot of teams that you could say, you know what, if they get hot at the right time, they could make a deep playoff run. And you look at our game of the week this week that we'll be doing on Friday. We're doing a game on Thursday and Friday this week, so really exciting stuff happening. Be on Thursday doing the Battle of Highway 70 between Hazen and Carlisle. That one's usually close. Should be just a lot of fun this week in high school football in the state of Arkansas. Looking at McGee and Fordyce, which is our game of the week for Class 3A this week, and it's the game will be live streaming. So really exciting games. You got to look at all these teams, and I'll go in depth on it here in a second. And you got to say, man, these guys have this, these guys have this. How does each team match up with each team? And really, at this level of high school football, 2A, 3A, 4A, a lot of it, sometimes it doesn't matter which team is more talented, it's which team matchups better with the other one. So just getting in the flow of things here, finally getting a lot of excitement behind these teams that are in the top 10 and even some that aren't, that really feel like contenders. Mayflower being one of them that I wanted to shout out, especially because they still have a very good shot. Atkins is a team that I think could make some noise out of that conference. Salem's another team that could make some noise out of that conference. They beat Mayflower last week. So we're just going to go ahead and get into the rankings here. First, I want to go ahead and remind you, if you haven't already subscribed right here to the Arkansas Sports Network on YouTube, we got a big boost in subscribers from streaming the 4A state volleyball tournament. You could be next. We've hit 100,000 followers on every platform. Go ahead and follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to us here on YouTube. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when we go live or when we make a new video. And we're just going to go ahead and get into the rankings here. Starting at number 1, the Bismarck Lions. Bismarck is a team that we were able to live stream their game against Fordyce. That was, excuse me, not Fordyce, goodness. Prescott. Got a little bit ahead of myself there when I talk about Fordyce because I think they're a really interesting case, but their game against Prescott, that was a huge win, not only for their chances in the playoffs and where they rank in our top 10, but really for that program. Coach Keithley had his starting quarterback out. Ben Keithley was out in that game, and they found a way to come in and win it. And a lot of people who might have been saying, Ben Keithley is a one-man show on that team were proven completely wrong. Cade Keithley had a fantastic showing. You look at the way that he performed in that game, outstanding performance from him. And Bismarck is a team that we really like. Prescott's a team that was really beaten up on everybody. And Bismarck just came in, made a huge stand in a home game that really solidified them as a serious contender for the playoffs. I know there were some outlets that weren't super high on them or weren't as high as we were on them heading into the season. But we looked at this team and we said, look at where they are coming in from last season. Look at how many wins they collected and how deep they went in the playoffs, and look at how many returning starters they have. And talking to Coach Keithley in the offseason, man, was he pumped up about this group. This is a group that he's really enjoyed working with, is excited about their potential. And I was saying, beginning of the season, I said, this is a team, they've got so many strengths at so many positions. Quarterback, if you have an experienced and talented quarterback like Ben Keithley, and even without him, apparently, you can make a great run in the playoffs, a great run in the regular season. And they're undefeated right now, 9-0, likely to close out the season 10-0. We'll get to their game here in a moment whenever we do our game picks, but that's just such an exciting team, such an exciting time for Bismarck. Johnny Diaz, another guy that I want to give a shout out to. He's electric. They've got a great line of scrimmage. And like I always say, you can't be a successful football team without a great line of scrimmage. Bismarck has it, and they're going to have a fantastic run in the playoffs, and I can't wait to see what they do. Number 2, Fordyce. This is a team that spent many years in Class 2A, and they've moved up to Class 3A and continued to make noise. Cadillac Ellison, freshman quarterback there, very, very talented player. We've made some posts about him on the ASN High School page on Facebook. Go ahead and go check those out if you're a Fordyce fan. Really, really talented player. He's a freshman, just great arm talent. Fordyce is a team that's known for running the ball. They're a team that's known for being sometimes 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and that wins them championships. But you look at what they have this season. An electric quarterback like Cadillac Ellison is a guy that you really, really have to keep your eye on. Brandon Simmons, another guy who's so talented for that Fordyce squad. And again, go ahead and watch. If you're a Fordyce fan, you're going to want to check, and you're not able to make it to the game at McGee on Friday, go ahead and check out our live stream. Going to be super exciting to be able to watch the Red Bugs take on the Owls, and should be a showdown for the ages. Fordyce was able to squeak it out against Ryzen last week in the rivalry game, and that was going to be a huge test for them, and it was, and they passed with flying colors. I mean, just resilient team. Ryzen's nothing to shake your head at. Ryzen's a team that we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second, but Ryzen has had a fantastic bounce-back season. Fordyce is a team that, like I've said before, Duran Miller here at the Arkansas Sports Network, he's usually our resident Razorback guy, does a lot of great stuff with high school sports too. And he made a great prediction when he said Fordyce is going to be a top 3 team. And I think he was even higher on them than top 3. And now they're at that number 2 spot, and they're undefeated. And they're one of the favorites to win the state title this year. And they've just got so much talent. They're so athletic every year. Great coaching there. Just a great story in the Fordyce Red Bugs. As a 2A football fan, Junction City moving down, I was when I saw that, I said, man, I hope they don't move down to Fordyce, because Fordyce would just dominate Class 2A this year. And they stayed in 3A, and they dominated 3A, and they just are such a talented team. Great line of scrimmage every year. Historic program. I can't say enough about Fordyce. They've blown me away this year. So Fordyce, that number 2 spot, going to be a very, very exciting program for many, many years with Cadillac Ellison at quarterback. Gamble is a great player as well for them. His first name is escaping me right now for some reason. But he's a talented guy as well. I want to go ahead and give him a shout out as well. So many talented players for Fordyce, and really excited to see how deep they make a run in the playoffs this year. Number 3, Osceola, the Seminoles. Osceola, they're a team that a little bit came out of nowhere. We weren't expecting them to be in this number 3 spot in the preseason, but they've come alive here during the regular season, and they've looked really good, had great wins. I think, really towards the middle of the season, we started to hear some noise about them, and Osceola is a team you got to watch out for. So far, they have been. The Seminoles really, really doing well. I'll go ahead and admit I'm not super familiar with that team as I am with some of the others, like Bismarck or Fordyce or Newport even. But they've got such a good program right now over there. They're going to have a great time in the playoffs. I look forward to learning more about that team as the season goes on. Number 4, Prescott. Prescott's a team that you can't rule out just yet. They were the heavy favorites to win the class in the preseason. They were just running through everybody, dominating. And they go into Bismarck, tough place to play, tough team to play, great coaching on both sides, and Coach Keithley and the Lions ended up winning that night. That doesn't discount Prescott as a program. They've got so much depth, and they're really got some electric playmakers, Prater and White, and just guys that really pop out whenever you watch them. They've got so much talent. Go ahead, if you want, and like I always say, go back and watch. We've done 2 of their games this year. Their game against Falk, where they dominated, and their game against Bismarck, where it was so close. Go ahead, if you want to learn more about Prescott, go back and watch those games. They have so much talent on both sides of the ball. You can't count them out just yet. Prescott's going to be a team that's going to be there uh, whenever you're looking at the playoff brackets. They're going to be deep in the playoffs, believe me. Rivercrest at number 5. Rivercrest is a team with Jaden Young, Cavante Washington. Those are their two main guys. They've got other guys besides that, but those are the guys that you really hear about pretty often. And Cavante Washington, he was our D3 auto sales MVP of the week 1 week. Jaden Young was as well. They've got, and like I said, those are the two guys you hear about. They're unstoppable forces. So, I mean, looking at them and where they are right now, they're at number 5, but they're a team that, like I always mention, we're in the Class 4A state championship last year, brought back a lot of talent from that team into the Class 3A this season. And Class 3A, because it's so deep, has provided some challenges for Rivercrest. But don't count them out just yet either. They've got such explosive ability on offense, and then defensively, they're pretty sound. Coach Fleming has a great squad over in Rivercrest. Number 6, Mansfield. This is a team that lost to Bismarck early, but they've bounced back, got a huge win over defending state champion Boonville. And I'm looking at Mansfield. They've got the Burtons. They're doing great stuff. And Coach Overton has put that program in a great spot, running that option offense, run heavy offense. It's hard to stop sometimes. It presents a unique challenge that you don't see week to week. So don't be surprised if Mansfield comes out and makes some noise in the playoffs as well. They've got so much talent. It's undeniable that they could be a top 5 team if the cards had played out that way. An early loss to Bismarck really put them down early in the season, and that was before we knew Bismarck was really this good. We knew Bismarck was going to be a great team. We didn't know they're going to be the number 1 team at this point in the season. So you have to look at Mansfield and look at their resume and say, man, this is a team. You know, the ball bounces their way a couple times. That close game against Bismarck at the beginning of the season, and then a really impressive victory over Boonville. And this is a team that you gotta say, you know, maybe if they match up with Bismarck again at Mansfield, it goes a little bit differently. But you know, the way it stands right now, we can only work with the information we have. So Mansfield sits at number 6. Number 7, Boonville. Boonville's a team under Coach Doc Crowley, and they had to bounce back from losing Dax Goff. That was going to be the big question mark for them, and it remains one of the big question marks for them. Losing Dax Goff, how are they going to respond to that? And at the beginning of the season, they responded pretty well. Played a really tough Poto team at the beginning of the season. That was really when I started to say, okay, Boonville's going to have another really good year. And they have, but they're not in that top 3 spot where we thought they would be. They beat Ozark, a Class 4A team, earlier in the season, and the hype really started to build for them. They lose to Mansfield, and things start to get a little bit messy, but people are still saying, you know, you got to watch out for them because they're a team that's in it every year. They could probably be competing in 4A, you know, just like Rivercrest was last year, just like so many of these teams could be. Fordyce is another one that I really feel confident could compete in 4A as well. There's so many teams, and you just keep listing off teams like that. And really, Boonville's got so much culture and so much history at that program, similar to a Fordyce or a Prescott, where you have to label them as a contender every year. And even at this 7 spot, you know, and in a lot of other classes, they would probably, or in a lot of other years, this Boonville team, if 3A wasn't as deep as it is this year, would probably still be in that top 3, in that top 5. But you have to look at where they are right now and say, man, is Boonville a little bit underrated? Did they just have a bad game against Mansfield? And, you know, I really feel confident that Coach Crowley is going to have them rolling and going to have them in a really good spot come playoff time. He always does. And defending state champions, that's a heavy burden to carry. And you kind of saw they were willing to say, you know, we should still be in that spot early in the season. And you just can't count them out yet. There's so many teams. Like I feel like I said it for every team, and I probably have. You just can't count them out yet because 3A has been decided by inches, really. You know, you say you swap this game out with that game, and this team's in the top 3. It's been just because of tough schedules that some of these teams are as low as they are. But Prescott's a team that I think really really is going to have a bounce back. I think they're going to be a quarterfinal, semifinal type team, especially if they get some good matchups in the playoffs. Number 8, Ryzen. New coach at Ryzen. Coaching at Ryzen brings a lot of expectations. You lose to Fordyce, and even with an undefeated season up to that point, the chatter begins to start. And, you know, it's just you play Fordyce like that. You play him so close, and you say, man, the ball bounces one way. We get this first down. We convert on third down here. We convert here and there and here and there. And you just bounce it back and forth in your head. And Ryzen's a team that if they had beat Fordyce, that's a team we're looking at as a top 3, top 5 team. And it's just, Ryzen's a great example of, they win by or they score 3 more points in that game, and we're talking about them as a serious contender. When we talked, and I want to make this comparison here. When we talked about Fordyce in the preseason, we said, well, look at how close they played Prescott. Prescott's a team that made it to the state championship last season, ultimately lost to Boonville. But Prescott was also the team that was the heavy favorite to win the state championship this year. And we said, man, Fordyce came so close to knocking off Prescott. And, this is another case like that. Ryzen came so close to knocking off Fordyce. Is that a turning point in their season? I don't think so. I think this is a very, very well-built team, and they've found the right offensive system for them. And I think that, it wouldn't surprise me if they go in the playoffs and knock off a team that they're not supposed to, because they've shown they can play with the big dogs. And so Ryzen's a team to watch out for. Number 9, Newport. Newport is a team that has been pretty up and down this season, to be honest. But the thing that keeps me intrigued with them is Keandre Baker, Tonio Phillips, Amani Wren. I mean, getting those guys all together on a football field is hard to stop. Some teams have done a decent job of it. Newport's defense has been a little bit up and down. Rivercrest beating them earlier this season was a huge game for them. But Newport's still a team that I'm not ready to count out yet. You get Keandre Baker in a good spot. You get Tonio Phillips in a good spot. You get Amani Wren in a good spot. And they're able to make plays. And I was very impressed with them. I watched their game against Mark Tree. And that was back when we really didn't know a whole lot about both of those teams. And I said, man, this Newport team is going to be special. And that was when we thought Mark Tree was going to finish the season maybe in the state title game. We had them ranked, I believe, at number 2. And I said, Newport knocking off a top 2 team in 2A by 3 scores is very, very interesting. And we knew with them getting Keandre Baker, we knew with them getting back Amani Wren from Greenwood, that this was going to be a team to watch. And so far they have been. They're still a team to watch. They've got so much, explosive ability on offense. Defense is going to be the big question mark for them, though. Number 10, McGee. Another historic program. Very, very interested to see how their game against Fordyce goes. If they're able to perform really well against Fordyce, and they've had a little bit of an up and down season as well. I believe they lost to both Star City and DeWitt, but I'll have to check on that. So if that's the case, 2 4A teams that you lost to, there's still a lot of room for improvement for McGee, but that's a team that every year people are very interested in because they're such a blue blood in high school football in the state of Arkansas. And so being able to look at McGee and see the spot that they're in, you got to say, man, McGee's a team that they get this win against Fordyce, their season might be totally flipped around, and we're talking about them as a top 5 team, top 3 team. So if that game against Fordyce goes well, they're immediately back into that contender spot, and I'm really excited to see how McGee does down the stretch. So I'm going to start off with the Thursday games this week, and Bismarck versus Horatio is going to kick us off here. Like I said, Bismarck's going to start 10-0. I say start 10-0. They're going to finish 10-0 really in the regular season here. Great season for Coach Keithley and his crew. Very, very exciting season for Bismarck. Hard not to pick them against anybody, much less a ratio team that's 2-7. Bismarck's going to win and probably have that at a mercy rule by halftime, if not earlier. Dumas versus Drew Central. I'm going to pick Dumas to win this game. They're going to move to 4-6 on the season. Drew Central 2-8. Dumas is maybe struggled a little bit more than they expected to this season. But now that we are able to reflect a little bit and say, man, where did things go wrong? Maybe Dumas bounces back next season. And I don't want to talk like that because you don't want to get ahead of yourself here. But Dumas is a team that really just needs to get this win this week and get things going, and maybe say, let's just see the state of this program and really see what we can work with here. Falk versus Smackover. Smackover, to be honest with you, was a team that I thought was going to do much better. They have a new coach in Don Harrison, who I think is going to build that program really well. Had a loss to Junction City earlier in the season that I think maybe set them back a little bit in non-conference play. It was such a close game, a defensive game. Mitchell Polk is going to be a quarterback that's going to really be impressive for a long time there. And I think that I'm going to pick an upset this week. I'm going to say Smackover gets the victory. Falk is a team that's been impressive, started off the season really well, but I think Smackover is going to pull off the upset this week at home. Harmony Grove, Ouachita County versus Watson Chapel. Watson Chapel is a team that has struggled mightily this season, adjusting from 8-man to 11-man. Harmony Grove, Ouachita County gets the win and moves to 6-4 this week. Salem versus Quitman. I have seen Quitman play in person. Quitman's a team that has a lot of good size. 5-4 this season in Class 3A, and Salem's a team that's built for offensive firepower. Quitman's a little bit the same way. Quitman got a huge victory over Atkins, and that really surprised me. I did not think that Quitman was going to have a shot in that game, and with the difference, their common opponent was Conway Christian. Atkins loses to Conway Christian by 3. Quitman gets mercy ruled by Conway Christian. So Coach DJ Mars over at Quitman, he's got his team in a good spot right now. They have a lot of momentum towards their season. Wouldn't be surprised if they beat Salem this week, but Salem just beat Mayflower. That's going to be a really, really good momentum boost for them as well. Two teams with a lot of good energy right now. And I gotta pick Salem though. I mean, Quitman's a team that's rolling right now. They've found their footing. They lost some good players from last season, and now they've been able to bounce back. But I'm going to have to pick Salem to win this week and move to 7-3. Quitman finishes the season 500 if that prediction comes true. Mayflower versus Atkins. Mayflower 8-1. Atkins 6-3. I think this game's going to be very, very close. I think Mayflower might be a little bit down after losing to Salem last week, after everybody really was saying, this is a team that's going to finish 10-0 in the regular season. With the way that their team was going, they lose to Salem last week, and the conference is in a little bit of a struggle right now. Mayflower to me is still a team that probably is a top 10 team any other year. I'm going to pick Mayflower to win. Game is at Atkins. It's a tough environment to play in, but I think Mayflower gets the victory and bounces back, finishes their season 9-1. Jessieville versus Cutter Morning Star. Jessieville is a team that, looking at them right now at 7-2, that's very impressive. Cutter Morning Star 1-8. They've really, really struggled to adjust to 11-man this season. Jessieville will roll big time in this one. We're going to move on to the Friday games here. Hoxie versus Walnut Ridge. Hoxie is a team that struggled this week. Walnut Ridge looking a little bit better every week. They're a team that was in our top 10 for a long time. I'm going to pick Walnut Ridge to win this week because the game's at Walnut Ridge. Obviously, this is a huge rivalry game, so anything can happen. But Hoxie's just been down this year, very uncharacteristic of them. Walnut Ridge a little bit down from where they really wanted to be. They're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to be in a solid spot. But I'm going to pick Walnut Ridge this week to win and move to 7-3. West Fork versus Mansfield. Mansfield will win big in this one and move to 8-2 on the season. West Fork will finish 3-7. Magnet Cove versus Perryville. This is a very interesting game. Magnet Cove was a team that was in 2A for a long time. They moved to 3A a couple of years ago. Perryville is a team that was really confident when I talked to Coach Fairbanks about potentially winning the conference this season. Lost to Glen Rose ultimately, and Glen Rose is going to end up with that top spot. But Magnet Cove is a team that's 6-3. Perryville is 6-3. This could be a close battle here, but I'm going to pick Perryville to win at home. Fordyce and McGee. McGee 6-3. Fordyce 9-0. Gonna have to pick Fordyce here. I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be a very entertaining game. Like I said, you can go ahead and watch our live stream if you're not able to make it out to that one. But I'm gonna pick Fordyce to get the victory this week and move to 10-0 on the season. Episcopal versus Yellville Summit. This is going to be the best opportunity that Episcopal has to get a victory to close out the season. Tough loss to Baptist Prep earlier in non-conference, and I really thought they were going to win that game going into it. It's a tough spot for them to be in. 0-9, Coach Fortner's in his first season, still trying to build the culture and build up that program a little bit. But Episcopal is going to be a team. They've got a lot of good resources. Wouldn't be surprised if they were back in it not too far from now. But at this moment, I'm going to have to pick Yellville Summit to get the victory. Glen Rose versus Danville. Glen Rose, like I said, they've locked up this conference. Started out 0-3 in non-conference play. A blowout loss to Bismarck. But Danville's a team that's on a good trajectory. Coach Crane is going to have them bouncing back next season. But Glen Rose is going to get the victory this week and move to 7-3 and undefeated in conference play. Palestine Wheatley versus Lakeside. I'm going to pick Palestine Wheatley to win. Coach Tyler Pascal over at Palestine Wheatley has really invigorated them this season. They're going to be a team that's going to have a bright future ahead, I believe, looking better than they have the last couple of seasons under Coach Pascal now. They're going to beat Lakeside this week and move to 500. Melbourne versus Mountain View. Melbourne's a team 6-3. Mountain View 4-5. I'm going to pick Melbourne to win, move to 7-3. Melbourne's a team that I thought was really going to compete for that conference, and they really have. A close loss to Mayflower earlier in the season. But I'm going to pick Melbourne to get the victory and move to 7-3. Newport versus Harrisburg. This is going to be a great opportunity for Newport to close on a high note and have some momentum going into the playoffs. They're going to beat Harrisburg this week. Greenland versus Charleston. Greenland 4-5, Charleston 5-4. Boonville versus Charleston, always a close game, rivalry game. Boonville was able to pull it out, but I still think Charleston's going to be a team that could make some noise later in the season. They're going to beat Greenland this week, I believe, and move to 6-4. But Greenland has a very bright future ahead. Really talented sophomore quarterback there named Slade Norwood is going to have a good season. Good numbers at the end of the season, and he's going to have a good season for the next 2 years, really. Prescott versus Centerpoint. I am going to pick Prescott to win this game and move to 9-1. Centerpoint's a team that started out undefeated. Pretty deep into the season. They moved into our top 10 at one point. But I'm going to pick Prescott to win this game this week. Hackett versus Cedarville. I'm going to pick Hackett to win this week. They'll move to 3-7. Cedarville's just a team that's in a rebuilding stage right now. Boonville versus Lavaca. Lavaca is a team that's bounced back this season. Boonville is a team that has had really high expectations. I've already talked about them, at length earlier in the rankings. I'm just going to go ahead and get into it here. And Boonville is going to win this game. They're going to move to 9-1 on the season. Barton versus Rison. Two very historic programs here, but Rison's going to win this game going away. 9-1 will be their finish. Osceola versus Manila. Osceola will win this game very easily. They will beat Manila and move to 9-1 on the season. Piggott versus Rivercrest. I'm going to pick Rivercrest to get the win over winless Piggott this week. Rivercrest will move to 9-1 on the season. I'm going to finish it off here with Paris versus Two Rivers. Two Rivers winless so far. That will continue. They will finish the season 0-10. Paris will finish the season 4-6 and get the victory over the Two Rivers Gators. That's going to do it for this week for Class 3A on the ASN Ranking Show. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow us on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And until next time, I'm Carson Ward, the ASN Ranking Show, signing off.